this is Bonnie, and today I thought that we'd work on a different project. I'm calling this my Circus Beary card, and I am using two really cute stamps, and I don't know what I did with the things to show you, but anyway, what we're going to be doing is first stenciling the background, and then we're going to be doing some stamping. So the first thing I usually do for my cards, because I'm not really keen on having a total white background, is I am going to do like I always do. I'm going to use a Pumice Stone, and I am going to be adding that to the background like I always do. And I'll just do a little bit for those that haven't been here before. And what I do is I use my blending brush, and I just spray it very lightly. And then what I do is I go ahead and use my Pumice Stone by rubbing that across, and then rubbing this across the entire background. I just like to soften the white so that that's going to be my background. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off screen, and I'll be right back to set up our stenciling. Okay, so I've got the Pumice Stone on the background of this paper, and I wanted to tell you I am starting with a 6 by 6 inch card base that will be trimmed back. And the other thing I did is I added a little bit of Pumice Stone to a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to be using this for the collar on the bear. So other options for a stencil, I would suggest for you to see what you have in your stash. I am sure that there's a way you could probably use paper strips and go across, but it would be a lot harder. I would suggest getting some sort of a stencil for the background. So I have things divided up in terms of color. I am using Distress Oxide, and I'll show you each one, because what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and stencil the entire thing and speed it up a little bit, so that that's pretty much the majority of the video is probably for the most part doing the stenciling. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I will show you which one I'm using in order, and I will also list it in the description below in the order that I used it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I did that a little bit different than I did originally, but it's still going to work out fine. And you could tell when I was going through it, kind of like if you go over the line, these are skinny lines. If you go over the line, you just cover it up. It really doesn't matter the type of style that we're doing. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show you what the reveal looks like. And the other thing I wanted to tell you, I did make it a 6x6 like I said earlier, but what I also do, which I'll show you in the original, is after I stitch this on the machine, I don't know if you can even see the stitches on there. There we go. I actually trim it back. So I just keep this bit on there, and then I stitch on the machine, and then I trim it back. So that's why I made it a little bit bigger. Plus the stencil is not a 6x6 stencil. So the next thing that I did with this is, obviously you can see that there's a big centerpiece that's white. And I actually used like the blue in the center, and I'm not really sure that that's what I want to do again, but I could use any color right there in the center. And I think this time I am going to be going with a mustard seed for the center. And all I'm going to do, as long as I have a clean enough brush, I'm going to be using the mustard seed. And I'm just going to lightly do the circle there in the center, but I think I prefer using the yellow over the blue. Now you can pick whatever of these colors you want or leave it white, but I think that's what I'm going to do this time. Is just going to have that be a yellow. Now I'm going to show you the stamps that I'm using. This one's from Fairy Hugs, and it is the Beary family, and I'm using the largest one. I kind of like call this Daddy, Mama, and Baby Bear, and I'm using the Daddy Bear. And I'm also using, this is April, and I'm going to be using her for the top, and that works out really well. So you can see, you can even, like I always do, I audition whatever it is stamp that I want to use, and if I didn't like that yellow back behind, I could actually, there's a couple colors you can change it into. If I added blue to it now, it would be green. So I'm going to leave it as yellow. So the next thing that I do is basically I set up my stamping platform, and I stamp those images on. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I don't think this is actually the quickest part of the whole video. It should be, is just adding the stamps. So I'm getting this set up in my platform. And like I said, I always set up my stamps with using the acetate from the actual stamp that you get, so I know where I want to place them. So obviously the biggest thing is the bear. And I think I've got this a little bit crooked on here. Hold on. I like it to be a little bit more straight. I'll put that up a little bit higher so you can see. And I just put him on there, and I think, okay, like this is about where I want him to be. And I can even compare it to the first one that I did if I wanted to, and I had it up a little bit higher. So he's going to be about right there. And then I grab my stamp and put him right there. And as long as your stamp is nice, or your pad, your ink pad, is nice and juicy, it will stamp the first time, but mine, I had done a bunch of cards this week, and so I might have to stamp it more than once. Okay. And I'm stamping on top of Oxide ink, and so sometimes it takes more than one time to stamp also, which is another reason why you need the platform when you are stamping, I think, on top of any kind of distressed ink. And I did not put my, I think I'm going to do that now. I did not put my magnet close to him, and that'll help keep my paper in place. There we go. And you can see what I'm saying. Definitely needs a couple more passes. And the other thing I always do, and you've seen me do that also, is I put the clear embossing powder on them when I'm done stamping. I think I'm gonna rub that over him. Okay. That's great. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is April. She's like one of my favorite new stamps from Beary Hugs. And I'm going to make it so that her foot goes a little bit over that line, so she's really not floating on him, but she's stepping on him. I think I'm going to turn her slightly. And she fits really good in that little center spot. Okay. And I'm going to be stamping both of these and then adding the clear embossing powder. Have to wipe some of this ink away. There we go. All right. This is really a fun card. I love doing the different colors in the background. Now, obviously, it's really easy if you want to do one color. So you did really want to do the traditional circus colors. You could have it all red and white in the background. That would be very striking. Okay, I think I'm going to put a little bit more of this tape down just to make sure that I have this a little bit more secure, although I've already stamped her. All right. You can see how she can touch right on the top of his back. It looks super cute. Okay. There. So we've got both of these stamped, and like I said, right now I'm going to go ahead and clear emboss both of them. Okay, so the next step is to use another stencil. This stencil is from Beary Hugs, and it is called Galaxy. And it has a lot of stars all over it. And basically I try to line this up. It does actually fit the other stencil really well that I used. It's pretty much the same size. And I am going to be using, there's my tape, my washi tape to secure this down a little bit. And the deal is I have to be careful. I could have made a stencil underneath for the stamps, but I'm not going to get that close. I'm not doing all of these. I'm doing a lot of them, but I'm not doing all of them. I'm actually going around them. I'm going to be using molding paste, and I'm going to be using the palette knife to get that on. So like I said, I'm going to be a little bit more fussy about where it goes, but some of the stars will not be complete because it's just more like a mixed media type random. I just want some of them, and I want the ones as much as I can around them, around her and the bear. This molding paste is a little bit softer than what I usually use, and so I have to be really careful it doesn't get underneath these stars. I actually like the little bit thicker molding paste. This one tends to be more like toothpaste. And what I need to do, I need to do it relatively quickly because I'm going to be adding glitter when these are still wet. Yep, and it's good for you to rotate it so you can see what you're doing. Like I said, for the most part, I'm getting a lot of them, but there's some that are just partially there. And the molding paste and the ink beneath it are water-based, so they can blend in together also and become that color. So again, right away, I'm going to take this off. I say that, and then I can't get the tape off. That's off the part I need. Okay. And you can see it's really, really pretty with those stars. And then, like I said, right away, I use Fairy Hugs, my favorite, the Fairy Hugs glitter powder, the pixie dust. It is beautiful. So let me get this piece off really quickly. And I'm going to change my background because it's got a little bit of a paste. I don't want the glitter on that paste. Okay. And I'm just like I said, I'm just going to put that all over the back while it's still wet. You can never have too much of this pixie dust. It's beautiful. Okay. You can see how I covered that all up. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's just so pretty. It's going to dry, and then I'm going to be able to continue. I guess you can see a little bit of the glitter on there. It's so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and do some embellishments. I'm going to actually color in the wings and give our bear a little collar, a circus collar. Okay, so for the final touches, if you remember in the beginning, I used some of the Pumice Stone to darken some of the paper, scrap paper. And what I wanted to do was create a collar, and I'll show you that on here, for the bear. I call it a circus collar. You can leave it blank, but I kind of like the circus collar. So what I used is, I've had this in my stash for a while. This is for a medallion die. Circle, this goes around the medallion, and it was perfect because it went in and out, so I could have a pleated collar for the bear. I'm not going to need this whole entire amount, but as you remember, there are, as you can see, there are you can see that there are score lines that go back and forth, And basically I just do that until I get a piece. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I forgot. I do cut this first. I make it really a lot smaller. It doesn't need to be that big. So it's way too wide. And then I start doing the in and out. And to be honest with you, I did not measure to see how long. I just kept going until I got the amount that I wanted. And then I put some score tape down around his neck and place this down. But let me go ahead and get this going so I can show you what I did. And I need to do this part first because I did add color to it, but I used the same color I use on the wings that I used on the collar. So I wanted to get this on first. So score tape, 1/8 of an inch. And I basically look at him and I say I want the collar to be about right there. So I'm going to turn this around this way so I can put the tape on correctly. And I want to make sure I get it all the way to the end. And that's pretty much where I put the tape, okay? And then what I do is I start, I gotta take the liner off. All right, it's not cooperating with me at the second here. There we go, there we go. Okay, back to what I was saying. I'm just gonna start with that on the very edge. Make sure it's adhered down there. And I'm just going back and forth, and I think I'm gonna need to turn that. And I kind of pinch it as I go and then press to make sure it keeps those folds. And you can see it depends on how many you want to put on there, how long you make it. And I can see I pushed up that tape a little bit, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more. But I'm going to snip that away and add that. And I need to add a little bit more tape to the very end because I pushed that tape up underneath there as I was pulling that. All right. I mean, every time you do something, something changes. And you just have to go with the flow. All right. I think I'm having the problem with that sticking. I know why. I added that glitter and it got stuck on him. So I need to rub that off. There we go. Let's try that again. Or the thing I'll end up doing is gluing it down. I did not have to do that with the first one. Okay. All right, I think we got it now. And that's going to be his collar. All right, so now the next step is I pulled back out the banded coral, and I'm just going to put just a dab of this on my media mat. And then I'm going to get out my water, and I'm going to make this into a water, into the, like painting with water or ink. So I'm going to come back in. I'm going to get this a little closer. So I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to highlight the ends of some of these and then around the front. It just depends on how much you want, just to give it a little bit of highlight. And you don't have to do this at all. You can just totally leave it white. I just kind of liked it highlighting it a little bit. And the reason I'm using the abandoned coral is because I know that I wanted to paint in the fairy's wings. And because the abandoned coral is pretty much right behind her, and it blends in with the other color I used, the dried marigold, this works the best to paint over that. But it really depends on what's behind the wing and what color you choose to watercolor your wings. Because it will be different. But that's pretty much what I want to do to her. You can see how I watercolored that. Then the next thing I do, like I said, we're just about done, is I have, and you probably have any kind of sparkle paint, or like I think the pens people have. I use this extreme glitter. I've had it for a while. It's a hologram. And that's what I use because this has lasted me forever. And usually when I buy the pins, for some reason, they get clogged. And all I do is I use the cap, and I take just a little bit out, and I just paint over the wings. And that gives me the glitter that I need. And I don't have any clogged spouts. So it needs to dry, but you'll be able to see how she's shining because she's got the embossing powder on her, but the wings do shine. And you can really see how the stars are shining now. So that's pretty much what I do for this. And then the next step I'll do, which I'm not going to do for you to actually, because you can't really see on my sewing machine, but I am going to stitch around, like I said, the outside. Oh, and one other thing I did is, for the most part, I tried to clear off some of this excess, because I'm going to be stitching around this. And this is what, as you saw at the beginning, what it looks like to stitch around the outside. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to stitch around the outside, trim that back, and then I will put that on a card base, and we'll be done. So I hope you enjoyed that. And again, I want to remind you about Fairy Stamper Hugs on Facebook. We have a challenge there every 2 weeks, and you have a chance to win $15 in the store by entering your cards. And I'd appreciate that if you could subscribe to this channel and like this video. We appreciate you stopping by. Thanks so much.